Hi everyone and welcome to Knife Rev. Today we're going to be talking about the Lagom Bush knife. So this knife is a collaboration between Ben Piersma of Ben's Backwoods and Jason Gustafson of River Bushcraft, and they got together with LT Wright knives and had this knife produced. So let's go through the specs real quick. The overall length of the knife is 8¼ inches. The blade length is 3½ inches. The blade thickness is 1/8, and this is made out of tool steel, and it's ground to a Scandi grind, and it's a zero grind, meaning that there is no micro bevel. So let's look at the build quality of the knife. This is made by LT Wright knives, and they do an excellent job, and this one is no exception. I see no tool marks on the metal, on the blade, and also on the handle over here and the back. It's polished very nicely. The transitions between handle and metal are very smooth. You can't feel anything, both top and bottom, and also the pins are also finished very nicely. So is the lanyard hole. So the plunge grind is done very even. It's very nice. Looking at the tip, it's also symmetrical, so it's ground nicely. So overall, I would say that the finish of the knife is very well done. This particular model has come out very well. So let's look at the ergonomics of the knife. This is a very plain handle, and maybe that's why it's so comfortable. It is very nicely finished and smooth and no grooves, so there's nothing to give you a hot spot. And it is contoured, so it's narrow at the front with a little bit of a palm sole in the middle, narrow at the end. So when you grip it, you do feel that it just fits nicely on the hand, and I don't see anything that can give you a hot spot. Either you don't like the way that it's shaped and you won't like it, but you're not going to get a hot spot from it. I worked with this knife for about an hour straight the other day just to test it out on some wood, and never developed any kind of a hot spot. And maybe that's why, because it is so plain, so simple, and very well contoured that there's nothing really to give you a hot spot there. So overall finish of the ergonomics is very nice, and since it is laid out about a little bit over 4 inches on the handle, and you got about 3½ on the blade, it's very well contoured, so it gives you a lot of dexterity to handle either small jobs or more intricate jobs that you may have. So I like the way this knife carves very nicely, and definitely found it to be very ergonomic. So this knife is made by LT Wright, and they have a reputation for making very sharp spines, and this is no exception. On the handle itself, it's very nicely contoured, so it meshes well with the handle. There's no, you don't feel any transition issues between metal and the scale, as I said before. But when you get here and then down the spine, it's very sharp, a very nice 90-degree angle, and it does throw some really nice sparks. Let me see if I can give you an idea, and I hope you can see that in the camera. It's throwing out some really nice sparks. So the handle itself is very smooth, but as soon as you transition to the spine, very sharp, and definitely throws out some sparks. So I worked with this knife for about an hour straight and just hacking up that branch, and just want to see what the blade shape is like right now. I haven't touched it at all since I cut that wood, and let's get a look and see if it's still sharp. And it seems to be that it is. So haven't had to, oops, that was me. Haven't had to really do anything to it, and still cutting very nicely. So this knife comes with a sheath, a leather sheath, and it's this one right here. This is from JRE Systems. It's kind of a generic sheath that they apply to different knives, and it's done very well. The leather is fairly thick, so it's fairly stiff. It's not going to, it won't wear out right anytime soon. You get a lot of use out of it. The stitching is done fairly well. Finishing is pretty good. It does come with a ferro rod holder, and on the back you can see that this is the dangler, and it's held with a screw over here, so you can actually remove it if you don't like that feature, or just, you can just fold it over and just pass the belt through there and you'll be set. As far as the fit, and this is one of the nice things about this particular knife, because it is, so let's see if I can get this out, it's got a heck of a retention there, but because it is very wide on the middle there, and it fills the gap over here, so it actually gets a very nice fit. One of the things that you may find from this manufacturer or other manufacturers is that when they put out these sheaths with certain knives, they don't fit very well, and it's basically a holder instead of a sheath, and you may have to do some wet forming. Not with this particular one, because of the width of the knife itself. And you can see there, I'm going to have to pry it open. But because of the width right here, actually snugs into the sheath very well, and the retention of it is very nice. This thing's not going to come off. It takes a little bit of effort to take it out. And it seats very deep on the sheath, so you're not going to have a problem losing this or coming loose. So as far as the sheath and knife matchup goes, I think this is a very nice setup. So for me, the pros on this knife is that it's comfortable, it's very ergonomic, and you can hold it in a bunch of different ways, and you're not going to have an issue with it. It's just easy to grip, and no matter how you do it, because the handle is so generic, and it's shaped very nice too. It fits my hand very well because it is slightly over 4 inches. So if you have large hands, it's going to be a nice fit for you. It's also nice because it has a sharp spine. If you enjoy striking a ferro ride with your knife, you're not going to have any problems doing it with this one. I also like that the Scandi, it's ground to a 0 grind, so there's no micro bevel, and also that it's very nicely proportioned, so you can actually do fine work with it. As far as getting creating notches or doing detail work with wood. It definitely helps to have this kind of a proportion between a 3.5 and a 4.5 inch handle, because you're getting a full grip with somewhat of a shorter blade, and you can actually get some very detailed work done with it. So overall, I like the knife quite a bit, and there's quite a few pros for it as far as I'm concerned. Now if we get to the cons, then it's more of a nitpicking thing, but you notice that when you're holding the knife right here, there's no finger guard at all. So you do have to be careful of what you're doing with this knife, especially if you're going forward or punching anything, that you're not going to have anything that's going to keep your finger from riding onto the blade, and it is very sharp right there. So you do have to be careful when you use this knife, as far as if you're going to do anything thrusting that may shock your hand into moving forward onto the blade, because there's nothing going to keep you from doing that. So as long as you're careful and you remember that, you'll be fine. But as far as cons for the knife, that's really about it. As long as you're careful, that's not a big deal. Everything else is executed very nicely, so no real complaints from this knife. So my overall view of the knife would be that it's a great bushcrafting knife. If you like using it to carve wood, this would be a great addition to your collection, because it just hogs up wood like there's no tomorrow. And I really like that the blade is only 3.5 inches, and you can really get some control and do detailed work with it, even though it's a fairly large knife at 8.5 inches. But just the way it's set up, it's comfortable and easy to use in tight spaces, or if you're trying to do some notching or some other detail type of work, this is really going to work for you. So definitely go out to I think it's Ben's Backwoods that's selling it, and that's the only place I think you're going to be able to find this. It's not going to be on the LT Wright website, because it's a collaboration between those guys. So you'll find it on Ben's Backwoods site, and definitely check it out. I think they make this one, and I saw one that they have with orange scales, G10 orange scales now. So a couple of different style handles if you want it, and it is made by LT Wright. So you're going to get a quality knife. So definitely worth a look. So thanks for stopping by and checking out this knife with me, and I'll catch you next time.